and that is the key point I feel at this part.
Yeah, it is, and that is I feel on a lot of levels, the overriding truth of the whole of the conspiracy field is, whereas a lot of the time we do have direct conspiracies,
yes,
the largest conspiracy, we are dealing, people really need to hammer this into their heads,
yes.
We are dealing with a battle on consciousness.
Yes.
And this is something which uses ideas and uses concepts and gets reborn. And this can be something very ancient, and often it's based on a lie in history, which is then accentuated into a kind of a religious lie. Or, that we can see a lot of different levels of this,
Yes.
But it really is one of the most important parts of this subject. It's for people really to get that now.
Yes. I totally agree.
Thinking about what is being done to them and thinking about what they can do
to break out of it. Yes, and stop, because on one level as well, as when you are only in the process of examining the conspirators, as it were, or even the mindset of the conspirators, on one level you might end up identifying with them, meaning that you resent them so much, so you're actually becoming more like them in a way, or consequently you are so absorbed by just hating them or feeling anger towards these people. So at the same way you're becoming entrenched in that, and you're becoming more of what they are all about, and you're forgetting yourself in that, so to speak. And that's also a danger, I feel. Yeah,
you're forgetting yourself, and at the same time you're not doing anything about it.
No.
So you're moaning and worrying about what this group is doing to you, whilst at the same time not trying to understand what they're doing.
Yes.
And living just carrying on the same. And that is kind of the fake rebel, isn't it? He's the person that needs to constantly top up their life like that.
Yes.
And it's not sustainable, and it's not truth.
No, exactly. So I mean, again, it's important to emphasize that this is about giving you the tools to empower yourself, so you can change it in some way. And it's I mean, in that sense, it's really not that difficult as well. I mean, have you noticed in any regard to, if we talk about architecture, for instance, anything shifting in regards to trends of some of the new places that are popping up, or do you feel that we could talk basically, from around the world here, if there's any specific place that you feel that are, okay, you notice there is a difference, they're starting to incorporate something more in their architecture of the feminine aspect to all of this?
You can see that is starting to happen, but as we're talking about, that this is a technology, so it's not really, we'll put a few more angles, a few more feminine, smooth, arced lines in there, and that's okay, that's done. It's not as simple as that.
Right.
You've got to be thinking from the foundation all the way up, and thinking about the raw materials that you're using. And so, yeah, we can see it around the world. Even Norman Foster, the world-renowned British architect, is talking more about kind of sustainable buildings, and they're starting to touch on organic architecture as well. But what I see more of is still this kind of pseudo-futuristic look that was kind of pioneered in the 60s, and looks very new and hip, and has absolutely no substance behind it. And obviously one of the darkest, or kind of the more dire examples we can see of these is the housing estates which were built post-Second World War.
Yes.
And all of these architects were trying to incorporate this kind of new community thing. And it went so badly. Here's the kick of it. Here's the real kick of it. As this went so badly for so many hundreds of thousands of people, it created such ghettoized, poor little areas, that it actually worked in terms of research, because what they did then was they based all of the new prisons, open prisons, on the community housing project.
Oh my God.
This is the truth. You can actually find out about this. Anybody can look into this and find out that what I'm saying is completely true. And so that's what I see more of, really, is talking about it and bringing attention to it whilst not really doing it.
Right.
I mean, it's going to be a slow road to that, I think.
Right.
For architects are thinking holistically.
Yes.
Whereas, one of my personal kind of favourite researchers, Dan Winter, would say, if you can't, when somebody builds you a house, if the only way to tell whether that's a good house is to take a spectral analyzer into that house and actually look at the recursive waves of electromagnetic energy, which are actually in the house. And if this promotes seeds to grow, then you should pay the architect. And if it doesn't, then you shouldn't.
That's a good point.
It's that simple. It's really radical.
Right.
But we really need to throw out all the old ideas and see that this is very complex. But as I said, the concept of it is simple. And in terms of fractals, obviously we know that if we start from, what the object or the part of the building which is actually in front of us, and we're incorporating a certain form into that, then we just carry that on, larger, bigger. We're always focusing on each part that we're doing at the time. Then overall this makes a fractal embedding of a geometry that we will have at the end.
Yes.
And so this is very important. A lot of new thinking, I think, will pop up, and a lot of people are starting to find out about how cheap a lot of these materials are that I propose that we do use in building our own houses in the next 20 or 30 years. And so that's really exciting. I mean, there's even documentaries on, just mainstream television. We've got a program here called Grand Designs. And probably over the last 3 years, they've had about 8 to 10 straw bale and cob houses.
Yes.
And they've shown how cheap and how quick they are to build. And it really is a wonder material. And people have talked about hemp. And hemp obviously is incredible, but it's still quite expensive to get hemp bricks and things like this. Whereas straw bale, you can buy a straw bale, the actual bale itself, for 60p. And there's hundreds and hundreds of tons of hay each year and straw the world over that gets wasted. It rots down, or they burn it. They actually burn it.
Right.
So this is an actual waste material, which is just has incredible insulation value and is very cheap. And again, is made of organic material, so it will accentuate life.
And I encourage people to do Google image search on some of these straw bale houses, because some of those are incredible, and they basically covered in a chalk type thing, I reckon. And it's you can make basically any type of shapes you want with it. It's incredible.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, I mean, you can just take a chainsaw and just carve away. And I've actually built quite a few of these over the years. And what I've seen also is that if you ever do have points of the wall which start to have dampness coming through, the material is so flexible that you can actually take a chainsaw and actually just dip it into the wall and cut around this area, which has the damp spot, and insert a new piece of wall.
Really? Wow.
Which is a liberty you don't have with modern stone constructions.
No, exactly. No, and some of these places, there are two, even sometimes three, floors on them. So it's you're not only kind of made to do one-story buildings or bungalows. They're obviously the cheapest, but it comes into it then is you just have to have walls which they would call load-bearing walls. Yes. So
they're strong enough to support a floor on top of them. So there's a bit more sort of structural planning that goes in.
Yes.
But still, you don't need 10 foot of concrete foundation poured in underneath the building.
Exactly.
Which is one of the most expensive parts of a build, one of the most polluting, and kind of one of the most ugly and slow parts of the process as well.
We'll take a short break here and continue in part 2.